Hey, it's Kathy from Fit Kitty Tries, and today we're going to be talking about a question I get asked often, which is whether or not you should sell to Canadians as well as US customers for your print-on-demand store as a Canadian. And that question is coming up a lot after tax season and after me reviewing your tax obligations as a Canadian seller and how it's a little bit more complicated when you make sales in Canada on Etsy, but I don't think that's a reason to exclude. We'll jump into all the reasons why you may or may not want to sell to US customers and Canadian customers, and then how to change those settings if you only want to sell to US customers or only want to sell to Canadian customers or whatever other regions you want to set. I'll show you how to set those up in your Etsy profile. After hearing about or doing your taxes, you might be wondering whether or not it's worth it to sell to Canadians if most of your customers are in the US, just because of the extra tax obligations and work you need to do when it comes to tax time. So if you're not aware, how it works in Canada is if you are a registered business and have a registered GST or HST number, obviously you're responsible for charging GST and HST on top of your sales of goods and services. With Etsy, they expect you to include that in the price of your item. So if you're registered to collect GST and HST, they are expecting that you have included that in the pricing of your listing already, which would be kind of hard to do because the tax rate is going to vary from 5% to like 15%. So how you would factor that in fairly, I don't know. A lot of people just realize this after tax season that they now need to figure out how much of their included sales taxes were part of their price and part of their sales. I made a spreadsheet for that and did a video on it if you want help with that, but you basically are supposedly have included GST and HST in the price of your item. So you need to figure out how much GST or HST you collected from customers in order to remit that to the CRA at the end of the year. And for a lot of people, they're like, is it even worth the headache? I mostly sell to US sellers. I think I'd like to avoid that, please. That's not an unfair thing to say. But I will say that with a copy-paste spreadsheet, it becomes extremely easy. Literally all you need to do is download a report from Etsy and copy and paste it into the spreadsheet I created, and you have your taxes sorted. It's that simple. Another common reason I hear print-on-demand sellers not wanting to sell to Canada as Canadians is because for the most part they're selling to Americans and they're using print providers in the States. So their pricing is based on their print provider in the States, and the shipping to Canada is quite expensive, or switching to a Canadian print provider every time you get a Canadian order can be a bit of a hassle. Although Printify does this automatically if you turn on the setting for order rerouting, I believe it's called. You can opt to have your orders fulfilled by the nearest fulfillment center. I know some people do worry about quality with this, and that is fair. What I do is when I get a Canadian order, I manually change it to a Canadian supplier. Another issue people run into with Canadian suppliers is we don't have as wide a variety or selection. In that case, I use my American supplier and just ship it up to Canada. Shipping times become a concern when we have to cross the border, but I think Canadians are used to long shipping waits and high shipping prices, so I don't think that's a reason to turn off your shipping to Canada. My suggestion, if you want to simplify it, is to use your US print-on-demand supplier for most of your sales and your US shipping prices, and then just charge a lot extra for Canadian shipping so that Canadians have the option to get the item from your US supplier if they want to pay more for shipping, because that's usually the barrier and the reason why people don't want to sell to Canada is you're working with a print-on-demand supplier in the States, it's going great. To have to switch that manually or let your print provider switch that manually is a bit of a risk, right? I just recommend you use the same print provider so that you have the same selection, same quality, same inventory, and just adjust your shipping prices using the shipping profile tool, which we'll get into because that's actually how you would choose whether or not to ship to Canada, and that's how you turn off that setting. Did I miss any reasons? Is there any other reason you wouldn't sell to Canada as a Canadian? Maybe you just like don't want people to know about your store. You don't want your friends to know that you have a Etsy. I don't know. Drop me a comment below if you have a reason why you might want to not ship to Canada. But those are the two big reasons that I've heard and encountered in my print-on-demand journey. Now, let's get into the shipping profiles and how to turn off certain countries, as in not sell to those countries. So if you do decide that you don't want to sell to Canada or any other country, you're going to need to go into your settings here and then go to delivery settings. Here we've got our delivery profiles. If you are using a print-on-demand provider, they will often automatically create these shipping profiles for you, like this one from Printful here was created for me. And you can click on this little pencil icon to edit it. By default, they allow all of the different shipping regions. And let's say I do not want to ship anywhere except for the US, I would just delete all these. But if I specifically wanted to turn off or not sell to Canada, I would just delete that. Maybe let's just only sell to the US. This is what you would do. You just delete them all. There we go. We've just got our US delivery. That's the only place you deliver to. You're going to hit Save Profile. So that's how you would change your settings to no longer sell to Canada or to only sell to the US, is just by editing your shipping profile. Now, if you have multiple profiles, as you saw in my Etsy store, you will need to change all of them, or you can try and amalgamate them. I try and keep mine very organized because every time you connect a new print provider or sell a new item, they often will automatically create new shipping profiles. So that's something to check on. And one of the first things I do when I have a new print provider is to go change the shipping settings. I hope you found this helpful. If you are a Canadian Etsy seller, definitely subscribe to my channel so that you can get different updates and important information. As well, I have a blog, fitkittytries.com, where you can find answers to a lot of simple questions like, how do I turn off shipping to Canada? If you are not on Etsy yet and you're thinking about it, grab the link below so you can sign up and start listing items for free. You get 40 free listings with my referral link, and I would love to see you on there.